What's good, everybody? This is the one and only GM, and today I'm making a Tekken game tier list. But this tier list is going to be which Tekken games are the easiest and hardest to play at a high level. I decided to make this because I've been a long time Tekken player. I've been playing Tekken in tournaments since I was like 14 years old, and I started playing in tournaments in Tekken 5, but I got introduced to high level Tekken at Tekken Tag 1. So I was able to play a lot of high level Tekken players in Tekken Tag 1 and in Tekken 4. So I pretty much got to play almost every Tekken game at a high level. So I could tell you guys which games to me are the hardest and easiest to play. So the easiest ones are going to be S tier, and then the hardest one are going to be down. So for the easiest Tekken game to play at high level, I will have to say it is Tekken 8. And the reason why Tekken 8 is the easiest to play, they dumbed down everything. They have an easy mode, modern mode, like in Street Fighter, where you can press one button to do electrics and moves and sample combos. To get up is way easier. You just hold back and the character gets up. There's no more back rolling or tech traps. Get up kicks are way safer now. They're not launch punishable like they used to be. So you could kind of do get up kicks and toe kicks. Movement got nerfed, so you could just like hold back and the guy just kind of does like a really stiff backdash like Mortal Kombat 2. They just made everything easier. They made it more offense orientated, you know, real easy to do 50-50s, real easy to do mind games. It's just everything about the game is easier. Heat makes things easier. Like when I played this game, since I learned how to play Tekken and harder Tekken games. Like everything just seems easier. Breaking throws is easier. You could just mash buttons. The game has in practice mode, it tells you, and you know, you could it has frames in practice mode. Old Tekken games didn't have frame data in practice mode. Also, and you could watch your own replays, and then in replays it also tells you what strings you could duck and all kinds of stuff. And of course, I said it tells you what's unsafe and what's plus. Old Tekken games did not tell you none of that, and you can actually watch your replays in this game. And of course, it has online mode and it has an online practice mode also. And also, for since you know it's modern age Tekken, there's streams, there's a bunch of YouTube content creators that you can watch to get better at the game. So there's so much resources and so many things for somebody to get good at Tekken that, you know, it just makes it easier to step it up. So this is why this game is the easiest Tekken game to play. They just dumbed down everything, and everything that was hard about Tekken, they made it easier in this game. Don't get me wrong, there's still, you know, the Tekken stuff like spacing, fundamentals, knowing when to swing, but it just dumbed it down. So, you know, it's a lot easier to play, and even the hard characters are easier to play too. The next game that I'm gonna put as easy to play, I'm gonna put Tekken 7. And Tekken 7, I'm gonna put it in A. The reason why I'm gonna put Tekken 7 in A, Tekken 7 is easy to play to an extent. Like, it's easier to play than all the other older Tekkens, obviously, but you know, there being 2D characters and the high damage and race drives and get up kicks into full combos and almost every character having counter hit stuff, it makes the game like really random. It makes the game pretty dumb, but overall, you know, like it's easier to play just because one, there's 2D characters, two, throws you could just mash it like in Tekken 8. One, you know, the one break you can mash it. What else? You don't die for get up kicks. If you get hit by a low get up kick, you die. But other than that, you know, movement is all right, but it isn't as great as other Tekken games. So yeah, and of course, there's no real Oki traps in this game. Like, you won't die for just tech rolling. There's no back row traps. So you don't really need to worry about things like that in this Tekken game. And of course, you know, the rage drives and the rage arts, all that stuff makes it easier to make comebacks in Tekken 7. Armor moves too. That's another thing that makes Tekken 8 easier because of heat, you know, with the chip damage. that you could just do chip damage stuff when somebody blocks, guard breaks. So like opening up defense is way easier in Tekken 8 than it is in Tekken 7 because of the, you know, like I said, the chip damage, the guard breaks, the unblockables. And then when somebody's pressuring you in Tekken 8, you could just do heat smash and then armor. And then Tekken 7 also has armor. But Tekken 8 armor moves are much more effective than Tekken 7, but Tekken 7 still has that. And of course both games have rage arts and both games have rage. So all those comeback mechanics and things you have to deal with offense make these games the easiest Tekken games to play. But of course this game is harder because this game does not have heat. It doesn't have easy ways to open somebody up with chip damage. It has some guard breaks with Fakuram and stuff like that, and Lydia, but not every character has that, right? So that's just my opinion. It's, of course, you know, me saying this game is the easiest Tekken 8. It's still hard for somebody getting into it because there's a lot of things you got to worry about, like punishment and all kinds of stuff for Tekken. So those are my two opinions on these games. Next game, we're gonna have to think about this one, right? I will put let me see. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is gonna go in B. This game is funny because when this game came out, all the pros, because we came out of playing Tekken 6 and stuff like that, right? So when this game came out, a lot of the pros thought it was mad scrubby. They was like, yo, this game is mad scrubby, man. You could just like tag out of combos. You could just tag out of pressure. They had a lot of tag gimmicks. So a lot of pros thought the game was really scrubby. And this is Tekken Tag 2 was when Tekken started getting more scrubbier. Like in Tag 2, like in Tekken 6, you know, somebody worse than you can beat you, but not as much as in Tag 2. Like in Tag 2, somebody that's not as good. That's when Tekken started, the meta started changing. The balance started changing on like if a mediocre player could be a pro. In Tag 2, that's when it started really changing. In older Tekken games, it was kind of like one of those things. Like if you was better than somebody, they wasn't gonna beat you. But in Tag 2, the way the game is with the crazy damage outputs and the different teams and the tag gimmicks and everything, it made it so like somebody not as good as you can still beat you. Somebody not as good as you can still beat you. Don't get me wrong, you know, it's still a hard game to play because of all the characters in the game. Movement was pretty broken in Tag 2, which is why all the Koreans dominated in Tag 2, because Korean backdash and Sasa was way too good, and their movement was just way better than everybody else's. So they would just like space and just beat everybody up just because they were better at moving than anybody else. So that's why Korea was the best in Tag 2. They were just better at moving than everybody. And also the game has a lot of characters, and then you also have to learn the tag system on top of all the characters, and then there was so much matchups to learn. It was pretty rough, and then you had to learn how to tag out. Learning how to tag out was something that was really hard for a lot of players, especially players that don't come from the Tag 1 era. So that made it hard too, just learning the tag system and stuff like that. But of course the game has rage, and you know, you could tag out of Oki situations. Of course there was still back row traps and stuff like that, but in general it was a rough game, and you wasn't really forced to learn movement like that, because there was a lot of guys, especially like the guys from Venezuela, that were doing well. Their movement was terrible, but it was still placing. So that goes to show you that, you know, even though the Koreans were dominating, they would still lose to people from like Latin America and stuff like that, and those guys couldn't move at all. You know, they kind of just did stuff. So, but yeah, Tag 2 is one of the harder Tekken games to play, but it's not the hardest Tekken game to play. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff, and you know, throw breaking was still hard to do too, and get up kicks were really punishable. But you could just tag out of Oki situations and pressure and things like that. Next on the list is gonna be, I'm gonna put Tekken 6. I'm gonna put that in C. Tekken 6 is it's pretty rough to play Tekken 6 because there was no, besides rage for comeback mechanics, um there was no armor moves or heat smashes or none of that. So like if you got poked up, you got poked up. Like you just had to deal with stuff in this game. So your spacing and your fundamentals and your ground game had to be really good to play Tekken 6. The movement wasn't bad, but it wasn't the best, but you could still move. But it was just a rough game, man. It was a lot of up close pressure. Of course, the movement wasn't as good as Tag 2, because in Tag 2, you could just move out of everything and not deal with like a lot of offense stuff. And in Tekken 6, you had to take a lot more stuff. And the 50-50s in Tekken 6 were rough, man. Like, if somebody did a 50-50 on you, you just gotta have to hold that and know how to get up. And of course, there was back row traps. Get up kicks were mad punishable. Regular 6.0 had the get up kicks and the full combos, but they nerfed that. They nerfed it. It's just a really rough game, man. It's a really rough game. Low parry. And well, in regular Tekken 6, you got a full combo off a low parry. They took that out in Bloodline Rebellion, which is the console version. So when you low parry, it's automatic bound. But I forgot you do get up kick combos in Tekken 6. So if you ate a get up kick in Tekken 6, you will lose your whole bar. And if you did a get up kick and it got blocked, you got launched. And then, you know, if you get up wrong, you also die too. It's mad rough. You can't just hold back to get up. The training mode was rough. There was no frame data in the training mode. There was no I believe there was no replays, no replay button when you in practice mode to go back and replay stuff so you can see what you did wrong, like you know, like save stuff and stuff like that. You could watch your replays, but you couldn't like dissect it, like pause it and do all the extra stuff you could do in Tekken 8. So training mode was mad stiff in that game. It was kind of just looking through the move list, and that's about it. You couldn't. It was really hard to study stuff in practice mode. Practice mode was really lacking, really lacking. In Tekken 5, the practice mode was way better because you could record stuff, but in Tekken 6 you couldn't. So Tekken 6 was straight up bare bones game. It was a straight bare bones game. Plus the top tiers were really rough, like Bob, Lars, and all that stuff, and Law and characters like that made the game really hard to play at high level, man. You gotta have to take stuff, and then Rage was so much damage and scary. And execution wise too, like you really had to have good execution to do stuff. Like it wasn't a bummy game. There was no easy mode buttons, you know. There was no mash and throws. That's another thing too. You have to break every throw in that game specifically. You really have to break throws. So it's one of those things too. And knowing frames was important too, but you could still win without knowing frames. Because of how, if your ground game was really good, you could still beat people without knowing frame data. But it's one of those games that, you know, you can't just armor out of offense. You have to like actually poke and fight. If y'all want to know, you know, how good the game is, y'all should watch my video of what real Tekken looks like, and I break down matches I had in that game. When it comes to Lee was extremely hard to play in that game because he had no plus frames. So I was forced to have a solid ground game and really use negative frame traps to set up counter hits and stuff like that. And Tag 2, it was kind of like the same thing, but you could just tag out of everything and just avoid everything like that. Okay, so next on the list. Oh yeah, of course, there was no YouTube. There was YouTube, but there wasn't really no guides like that. And there was really no streaming like that neither. There was streaming for tournaments, but no streamers really stuff. And like the forums, they didn't really have forums like that. I think Tekken Sabatsu was probably still around for a little bit, but it was really hard to get data. You have to go to like forum websites like RB Norway just to get frame data. Same with Tag 2. You actually have to really look to get frame data. Frame data wasn't in the game. It wasn't until Tekken 7 that they started putting frame data inside the game. Next on the list is gonna be Dark Resurrection. I'll put Dark Resurrection like right here, right next to Tekken 6. Dark Resurrection is you know, doing combos and moves is easy, but the overall game is hard. You die for get up kicks. If you get up wrong, you die with back rolling or getting them straight, taking your back off. There was no armor moves. There was no heat. Movement was OD. Like you could really move out of stuff and sidewalk stuff. Another thing too, there's no homing moves in this game. There's no homing moves in Tekken 5. No homing moves at all. So it's not like in Tekken 6. Tekken 6 had homing. The Tekken 6 got introduced homing moves. Tekken 5 had no homing moves. Let's actually put that right here. Tekken 5 has no homing moves. None. So you actually had to know what moves track to what side, and you really needed to know what tracks. You couldn't just keep spamming homing moves. That's the thing with all these other games. All these other games have homing moves. So you don't really need to guess what side somebody's going to sidestep. You could just do a homing move. And that makes the game way harder. Also, throws was extremely hard to break. Just like in Tekken 6, you actually had to know the hands. Get up kicks was super punishable. You dive, they get blocked. There's no scrubby way to get up. And on the wall, you had to be careful if you tech rolled wrong. It was just rough, man. It was rough. It's hard to play. I think doing combos and stuff, depending, like the move list is small, so it's not too hard to remember moves and stuff like that. But of course, some characters are really hard to play, like Mishimas and things of that nature. So the execution barrier was high too, especially with movement. And another thing, if you couldn't backdash cancel a move, you was at a big disadvantage. You was at a really big disadvantage, like a very, very big disadvantage. So that's the thing with this game. That game is fundamentals is extremely important in Tekken DR. Extremely important. Plus in high level, it was a lot of just spamming safe moves and turtling and spacing. So fundamentally, you had to have good fundamentals, and execution wise, there was nothing bummy in the game. So I will put that right here. Extremely hard. Next on the list, I'll put Tekken 4. Actually, before we put Tekken 4, there's still Tekken 5. This game is mad rough because this game had real tech traps. Right? So if you tech roll wrong, you die. You literally die if you tech roll wrong. There was real tech traps in this game. It's extremely broken. All the broken characters will cook you. You get cooked by Steve Fox and with the Infinite and Nina. It was just a lot of broken nonsense in this game, man. If you didn't know how to get up, you was gonna die. There's no armor move, no heat, no nothing. It had record feature and stuff like that, so that's dope. But I'm telling you, this game was OD, bro. The throws were mad hard to break. You had to really practice throw breaking. Movement was godlike. There was just a lot of cheap stuff, man. You die off of anything. You get up wrong on the wall, you die. Somebody jump on your back, kill you. You tech roll, somebody get a full combo. You know what I'm saying? You get knocked down once by Nina. You can't get up because she got like the OD Oki. A lot of stuff was like super duper plus on block, and you just had to hold it. You couldn't do anything about it besides either you just block. This joint was mad OD, this game. I miss this game, actually. It's one of those things, like, it's easy to pick up and play and do stuff. But, like, once you deal at high level, it's mad silly, the game. So, that game, I'll put this right here. After that, I'll put Tekken 4. Tekken 4 is also a rough game. I'll put this right here because it's got a crush system and all that. And, the crush system, which was introduced in Tekken 5, was basically high crush, low crush. And you could go on the highs and lows with these crush moves. So that got introduced in these games. Tekken 4 doesn't have none of that. Tekken 4 has no crush system, has no hate, no rage, no heat, nothing. There's nothing scrubby about this game. This game is extremely hard to play because the movement wasn't so good. But it has so much broken stuff that you just had to take, like Just Frame Laser Scraper with Jin was unblockable. 2-1 was like +8. Nina had Ivory Cutter that was plus like 15. There was infinites on certain levels. When it came to offense, you just had to take it because there was no high crush, low crush. So Steve could be like 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and you just had to block it. It just messed up, man. You had to just take mad stuff in this game, man. You couldn't scrub out nobody unless you play top tier, which was everybody just did play top tier. And this game, like, everything was a just frame in this game. That's another thing that made it mad hard. Like, the just frames are like true just frames. They were mad hard to do, like really hard. You actually had to have real execution to do the just frames in this game. Like, Lee had like an infinite, but it was really, really hard to do. So there was true just frames in this game. In Tekken 5, there was true just frames, but not like Tekken 4. Tekken 4 is like ridiculous. So I will put Tekken 4 down here. Extremely hard. Throw breaking was mad, and the wall system was mad complicated. Like you could wall push somebody, and then you could push somebody out of the wall to get out of the wall. To do combos was weird too. It's like you had to wall push and then do the combo. It was really weird. The juggle system was just mad strange at Tekken 4, and the way the levels were really big. It's just really weird. And of course, it's infinites. Like I said, like down one with Paul in the garage stage, and Heihachi had infinite. Then Lee had in the arena. So, I will put Tekken Tag 1. Tekken Tag 1 is old school, man. Bare bones Tekken, man. You know, guy like backdashing. You need high execution. Everything was spacing. It's not very easy to play. It's really old, so a lot of the stuff is just like no comeback factors, none of that. You know, it's just extremely easy to play at a high level. Extremely hard, I mean, to play at a high level. It's just a lot of movement and backdashing and spacing. Execution needed to be on point. Throws are mad hard to break. Punishment, you gotta have to actually learn it on your own. There was no info on it unless you got like a strategy guide or something. That's the thing with these games. There was no frame data, so you have to learn the frame data on your own or go to the forums to learn all the stuff in combos and everything. There wasn't a lot of stuff. So, and then movement was mad good in Tag 2. Backdash cancel was OD, like super OD. So you really had to be on point with everything in the game. And then everything was just hard, like ha step. There was a lot of high level stuff. Mishimas were extremely hard to play. You had to have real execution. So overall, I will put this game this. It just doesn't have anything scrubby. No homing moves, no nothing. The combos are kind of weird to do, kind of hard to do. So really hard. Tekken 3, I'll put Tekken 3 like right here. Like Tekken 3 had a lot of high level stuff, but overall, I feel like anybody could kind of play this game. You know, it was going to one of those games that you could just pick up and play. At high level, I don't know too much about it, but like I would literally just go to a barcade and just beat people up just by doing basic Paul stuff. So, and then these Tekken games, these games are casual games. Tekken 1, Tekken 2, and Tekken Revolution. I'll put Tekken Revolution up here. Extremely easy to play. There's nothing hard about that game. And then Tekken 1 and 2 are casual games, so we could rank them. I'll put them at the bottom because at high level, those games are mad rough. There's infinites. You could die off of one combo. Those games are mad silly. You just die off of anything. They mad broken. So, but yeah, that's my tier list for hardest Tekken games and easiest Tekken games to play. That's just my opinion at a high level. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and follow. fightinggm_Tekken is my Twitch. We're close to 10K subscribers, so please subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out and take care.